Let's jump in. So, Mike, thanks for joining us on the Pair program. This is another bonus episode of a mini series that we call "How We Hatched," and today we've got Michael Hauser spending time with us. Mike is the managing partner at SAIC Ventures, where he's responsible for leading SAIC's investment strategy, collaborating with startups to create value for government customers. I'm very excited to have you joining us, Mike, as we continue to kind of use our platform as a medium to build more awareness around the innovations that are happening across defense tech and gov tech at large. So again, thanks for joining with us on the pod.
Yeah, Tim, it's great. Thanks for having us. I'm excited to kind of tell the story and share whatever we can about the value we're creating at SAIC and for our great government customers.
Excellent. All right. Now we kick it off. I always like to start every one of these episodes with a pretty thought-provoking question. What did Mike Hauser have for breakfast this morning?
I met a new friend, alumnus of Michigan Business School, Go Blue, and at Tate, and I had a lovely pastry with pistachio and tomato. It was amazing.
Oh, wow.
I also highly recommend their Mediterranean latte. It's got a little cardamom in it. It's just delicious. So,
what's the name of this place?
Oh, Tate. It's a chain in the DC area. I think they're up and down the East Coast at least. It's kind of like Mediterranean inspired Starbucks.
Okay, nice. Yeah. Always a fan of a new plug on a restaurant, cafe, something
There's going to be lots
explore.
of food references today. So, there's ample opportunity for sponsors here.
That's exactly right. We're always tapping some food and beverage sponsors. It fits right into our theme. And then, real quick, where are you physically calling in from? Where are you based out of?
Yeah, I'm in Kensington, Maryland. We're headquartered in Reston, so I get to have fun on the American Legion Bridge sometimes.
Yeah.
And out and about with our startup portfolio and other VCs as well.
Sense a little bit of sarcasm there in terms of there's no traffic in the DMV area.
No traffic in the DMV. The Legion Bridge and 495 is immaculately designed, and it's just
we welcome folks to reload here and enjoy the open streets.
Yeah.
All right, love it. So now to just kind of set the stage for our guests on what we're going to dissect on this episode. So we're going to be covering SAIC Ventures' role and mission, kind of lead that into the strategies that you all are crafting for accelerating go-to-market for the startups across your portfolio. I'd like to highlight the value prop of partnering with a large defense prime contractor like SAIC, the impact on the startups, on you all, the prime, and then the end customers, the U.S. government. And then lastly, we'll close with the future outlook on the defense tech startup ecosystem from your point of view and what we can expect from SAIC Ventures in the future. So, Mike, why don't you lead us off with the kind of the mission at SAIC Ventures and explain how you all integrate startups with a large defense contractor like SAIC?
Of course, and I think it may make a little bit of sense to kind of talk about how we fit into the strategy at SAIC, because we are a strategic investor, not a financial investor.
Yeah, good point.
On that spectrum from super financially motivated, completely off the balance sheet, there are some out there like Next 47 at Siemens, right? Great firm, wonderful pedigree, track record of wonderful investing, and they might as well be Bessemer or Sequoia or A16Z that happens to have a company as the GP and LP. We're on the other end of the spectrum, super tied to SAIC's core business strategy. We are all about IT, digital transformation, and digital engineering, about 60-40 across those two segments of work. So on the IT digital transformation side, right, it's cloud, it's cyber, it's EIT, enterprise IT. We've got software and all sorts of capabilities around helping government customers operate on-prem, operate on cloud, and then get into secure network environments, operate in JADC2 environments, get out to the mission edge, be able to drive financial or healthcare or other civilian agency transformations, right? So it's both NatSec and civilian as well.
Okay.
On the digital engineering side of the house, a lot of the same fundamentals in digital transformation, a lot of software-driven innovation off of commercially available software tools, and how we help government customers interoperate and integrate across those tools to leverage digital twin, digital thread, model-based systems engineering but not typically as the prime on a system, right? We're not making tanks, trucks, boats, airplanes. We do make some things. We are, kind of an OEM on some smaller systems, and that experience really helps us then bring this up to a systems of systems level as an integrator. And to do those tasks for our customers, we've kind of learned over the last 4 or 5 years that there are great commercially available technologies as well as bespoke for NatSec technologies that can really help customers faster and get the mission outcomes that are bigger and better in less lead time when we can bring them technology. And so we've constructed this model in our Chief Innovation Officer organization with a group of folks like me that are basically business co-founders to technology professionals. And then we have technology professionals in digital engineering and in digital transformation, as well as a kind of farther reaching CTO organization that bring capabilities to our customers where they kind of look like a technology platform, right? Where we can sense the similar needs, let's say in cloud at the Air Force, in the Navy, at the Department of Treasury or at the EPA, and kind of look at a meta level and say, wow, these sorts of capabilities, they lift up to this enterprise class solution. Let's go build that once. And then we can deliver the Air Force a Cloud One. We can deliver the Treasury a T Cloud, recomposing these elements together differently to meet the different mission needs that are both secure, resilient, multi-cloud environments for both those different customers differently, but off the same foundation. And so what we've figured out how to do is bundle these technology capabilities from commercial providers. We can even provide them on commercial business terms frequently. We have some business models for that. And we've grown this internally inside the company to, several $100 million of ability to transact through our businesses on those commercial business terms. And that's really what Lauren Knossenberger's team together does. I sit running the ventures team and a part of that team called Partnerships, Products, and Ventures. It's an integrated operating system to bring all of these commercial technologies. It doesn't matter whether it's hyperscaler tech from AWS or from Azure, or it's a software tool from a Zscaler, or whether it's coming from a venture-backed startup, a big one like a Dataiku, or a little earlier stage startup where they really need the help to get them into government, to learn government, like a Zage, an Orca, or a Morpheus, where our 3 investments are today. And I can't emphasize enough how different this model is from a venturing perspective, because our strategy is all around bringing innovation faster to as many customers as can adopt it as quickly as they can adopt it. So the value to the customer is getting rapid access to innovation. The value to the startup is about accelerating their pace of growth, right? It's a go-to-market focus. And then because of that go-to-market focus, there's business benefits to SAIC too. And it really just flows that way.
Yeah, that's fantastic. I think it's a really smart model, kind of providing those in-kind services based on, the resources that you bring to the table as a large organization, and then the connection points and the really the outlet to get that technology in the hands of end users quicker. It's a common theme, right? We hear it all the time. Is this narrative of doing business with the government is slow as molasses, and I don't even know where to begin. There's so much red tape to cut through. Over the last 5-10 years, I'd say more so recently, there is this overarching theme to modernize quicker. And I think a lot of that is part into of what's happening around the world, and at the speed of what if we're just going to use defense as an example, the speed at which new technologies are being injected into warfighters or drones, and how different wars are being fought on the battlefield today than they were 10 years ago. The idea that the government primes and product companies at large, like working together harmoniously to achieve a common goal, which is we know we need to speed things up. We know we need to get this into the hands of end users faster. And how do we do that? And I think this is a really creative model and concept to kind of demonstrate that quickly. You kind of touched on it briefly, but I want to hone in on it just a little bit more. So with some of these companies that are within your, would you call it your portfolio? What is there some common themes in terms of the size that they're at when they come to you all? We oftentimes will hear, seed or A.
Yeah.
Are you
Yeah.
kind of open on that, or do you like to really kind of sink your teeth in when it's super early stage and groom that? Where's that sweet spot fall in terms of the size of the company?
Yeah. So what I really like about our kind of different approach to being a CVC that's very go to market focused is we are typically very round agnostic. There are very specific boundaries that we think about to make venture investments, but our model is not to start with writing a check and then figure out the thing we can go do and or leverage with the company. And if we get to that thing, great. Our theses are built around having market impact based on what we know about the company when we engage with them. And so we might come across, a mature seed stage company that's got tech that works. The use cases it can function in are maybe a little bit narrow. We may just partner with them for a little while on some commercial engagements with government customers to put it where it works. And then that could then lead to, when they get to their mature A stage, Series B and beyond, where we're really focused on co-investing with bona fide, referenceable, value creating co-investors around the cap table. We really ascribe to it takes a village, to just like my 14-year-old son, right? These are middle school maturity companies that are going to, hopefully be great things when they're fully formed adults.
Yeah.
But the here to there is a tenuous journey. It's going to take a lot of help from, the church, from the teachers, from the members of the community, and us as parents with Jen and I. So, it's going to be kind of the same way with a portfolio company to get
Right.
them there, to get to that exit, that outcome.
Right.
We kind of feel that way as well. And when we can get in at a meaningful, valuable stage, relatively early, typically, right? Mature A into Series B, maybe little bit later. That might be the first check we write.
Okay.
But we may partner sooner. We may partner later. I mentioned Data IQ earlier, right? They were raising their, very mature series. I think it was E or G. I don't even remember right now. Around the time that we were, thinking about leveraging them into our data science platform. And we have a wonderful commercial relationship with them. The $1 to $5 million typical check size that we write at that round, it did not make venture sense. We did not do it. And because we are products, partnerships, and ventures, not a ventures team all on its own, motivated by writing checks, have to deploy capital at the rate, all of those pressures that a lot of other CVCs face, that VCs face. We've kind of designed this a little bit differently so that we're really focused on creating the go-to-market mission outcomes.
Yeah, it's something that you seem to have found a real unique outlier with regards to how you collaborate. It sounds like it's kind of size agnostic. Some might not need the capital, but they just need more of the access to customers or the ability to get the technology into the right hands of the user that makes sense. And you all kind of evaluate the needs where they exist within those companies when they approach you, or when you approach them, and then navigate accordingly. I love the different models that are kind of popping up across the landscape. And we've been having a lot of really interesting guests on the episode on the podcast. We talked to the CTO of the Navy just this week, actually, and they're explaining the ways that they're streamlining their direct access to like structured piloting approach to working within them as the end customer. And then you've got interesting organizations like Defense Innovation Unit, part of Defense, who are just also kind of like serving the opportunities, creating the pipeline, but aren't really taking a capital stake, if you will. And it sounds like you all kind of like pull a little bit of everything to craft your own thesis and what makes the most value for the startup and for the customers. We kind of talked a little bit about this as well, but I want to just reemphasize, where are those ideal verticals that you look to kind of prospect for companies?
So for us, it's really across the broad range of those two families of differentiators. along with where our business groups may need bespoke tech for their own vertical, right? So across, let me kind of walk through those stepwise. So if I think about our digital innovation factory, they're really focused on the next 2-3 years of bringing offerings around secure and resilient cloud, around doing operational AI and mission AI, around secure and trustworthy data and analytics, and then the on-demand delivery of outcomes, that which is typically software-based. So it's software mod, software upgrade, app development, app integration in the cloud, all those kinds of things. These are really, at the core of our 6 differentiators at the company-wide level that Tony Towns-Wheatley, our CEO, talks about all the time. And then you add to that the digital engineering innovation factory, and you bring in digital engineering for digital twin, digital thread, model-based simulation engineering, mod sim technologies, as well as the ability to design, develop, produce, sustain, and maintain hardware solutions as a kind of systems integrator. Those are the 6 differentiators of our company. And so those are dimensions that we're focused down and in. We can deliver these things on mission with customers on contracts we have, on contract growth, right? 80 some odd % of our contracts have the ability to transact commercially. It's wild to think about that of the performing contracts we have today, a vast majority of them can get access to technology on commercial business terms with us. Can and will are 2 different things. And program managers and the contracting officers on the government side of the table and our side of the table need to figure out how to use those contract clauses, but they're there, wide open. And then there are all the new bids that we think about going after as we look to grow as a company, because this entire enterprise under Lauren, right, the Chief Innovation Officer team, we are the technology-driven growth engine and the business model creation growth engine of the company. We're really taking those differentiators, finding technology ingredients in them. And the ingredient analogy, I think, really works here. If you think about tech from a startup as the peanut butter in a Reese's peanut butter cup, sometimes that tech needs to get wrapped with some chocolate. The peanut butter needs chocolate around it. And so peanut butter plus SAIC chocolate equals peanut butter cup. But most government agencies don't go to 7-Eleven like my son does to go, get a treat and just buy a tech and then figure out what to do with it, how to integrate it, make it work, interoperate it with all these other systems. The government customers, we've learned, really want like a Dairy Queen Blizzard. So here's your next plug opportunity from Dairy Queen, right? And so, we take that Reese's peanut butter cup, we go get the milk that might be the AWS or the Azure store and compute in the cloud. We then go get the ice cream, right? That might be the Force Point guards and the Cisco routers and all of these other IT hardware software integrations. And then we got to go, put it in a blender instead of going to Walmart and buying a blender. Well, that's our labor hours, right? Yeah. Make it all fit together. And the outcome is a blizzard. It's a Reese's peanut butter cup blizzard. It's a solution to a problem. And so when Zage is the peanut butter, we wrap it with some SAIC tech. We combine it with AWS store and compute and the Cisco this and the Force Point that, and the Zscaler the other thing. Go on down the hardware and software SBOM, throw it in the blender with our people. We now get what we're doing in airborne battle management, command and control for the Air Force. And we've got solutions that are operating with that bundle out there in the field today, right? Within a year's time from idea to fielded at a bunch of sites in North America. And these are real success stories of delivering Dairy Queen Blizzards to government customers. So we know the model's working, and that area you talked about earlier around warfighting, right? All domain warfighting is one of the national imperatives we think about at SAIC. There's undersea dominance, border of the future citizen experience, all domain warfighting, and then next gen space. Mm-hmm. We really see great capability out there all over the world, quite frankly, especially as we think about national security becoming a Five Eyes and AUKUS integration reality, where systems integrators can be the folks in the ecosystem who can be on the lookout for novel emerging tech in the startup community. And it can be the right piece of candy in the Dairy Queen Blizzard. Different mission outcome.
It sounds like a delicious solution. And we did promise the listeners we were going to have some food references. So that is the perfect little segment right there.
Yeah.
So You mentioned how many companies right now you said that are kind of going through the venture program with you
So
all?
we've got three in the portfolio. We're diligencing a gaggle right now.
Okay.
It could be our next investments. We've been at this for about 3 years. We lovingly called several of us within the company the Venture Capital Club. We came this close to printing T-shirts on one of the member of the club's cricket, kind of sort of in joke and kind of seriously. But it was really a pilot to figure out how venture investing could fit into this larger partnership, go to market focused value creation approach, proving that it works. And then as we honed in on these 6 differentiators that are our near term focus, we can talk about some of the longer term ones. Those will be fun a little bit later, Tim.
Yeah.
As we honed in on these, we made the decision earlier this year to make corporate venturing kind of a real boy relative to the wooden boy it was before.
Yeah.
So now we're animated with a team and a focus and a thesis and an investment committee, right? All of the infrastructure we need to have as a CVC to move out. And that's what we're doing.
Yeah. So I'm curious in terms of, forgive me if you already kind of pointed this out, but uh, identifying the problem and then sourcing the
Yeah.
solution. Is that kind of how you all operate, or is it? I guess what I'm trying to get to is how are you identifying the companies that
Yeah.
have the solution that you foresee is going to be fix this pain point?
Yep. So there's kind of 3 dimensions I'll put on this. The first dimension is horizons. So is it something that we are collecting the demand signal on today from across our business groups as part of the enterprise strategy process, surfacing these needs from the 30 plus account teams, the 5 different business groups, right? So we've got Air Force, Navy, Army, civilian, space, and intel. And between those 5 different business groups, we've got a bunch of account teams underneath them. They're at the coalface every day getting customers. And we've created this almost real-time approach to get those surfaced back up to us at the enterprise level. Yes, we're from corporate. We are here to help. But be able to then go spot and scout inside out for capabilities that fill those need states. And so that's kind of in the Horizon 1 zone. And then in the Horizon 2 zone, a little bit further out in the future, these are technologies where the demand signal may be low, nascent today. It either the tech is too early or the market's just emerging or some combination of the two. And we know that as integrators, government customers are kind of looking at us to figure it out, help them figure it out. Those other domains include things like adding autonomy into a network battle space, right? Unmanned things have been around for a while. And now as those things begin to proliferate, the network integration above and around and across them becomes really important. And that's something we think we're pretty good at, that customers like to buy from us. And so we're trying to add that into the autonomy layers. Quantum sensing and encryption, right? Get NIST sometime this summer. They haven't done it yet, but they're supposed to burp out some algorithms and set some standards. There'll probably be a bit of a freak out because there'll be unfunded mandates for government agencies. And we'll be standing by to help them figure out how to become quantum ready, what they need to integrate and operate to become quantum secure when that requirement eventually emerges. And so that will change the cyber software bill of materials, maybe some of the hardware integration as well. So we'll be ready for that. Quantum sensing a little bit later than that, quantum computing at scale for government, a little bit later than that, much further horizon. Secure and resilient networks. And that's, some of that is like 5G network integration kind of stuff. Some of that is a different definition of networks as you move across cloud echelons, low to high, high to low, and also maybe across coalition partners, especially in the world we live in now. The risks you are starting to surface that, the US and a Five Eyes or an ACUS or an Indo-PACOM interoperability kind of customer scenario, you've now got to move different types of data across different security levels with different permissions to maybe even different partners. And that's something we've started to do. And that needs different technologies. So those are some of the further horizon areas that we'll look at. And again, that's a lot of inside out thinking based on customer feedback. The second way we think is outside in. So we're getting feedback from leading VCs, NatSec bespoke VCs, from dual use tech investors. and we're getting feedback on what's emerging, we can bring those tech trends to our experts in the enterprise and create that knowledge loop to inform the future that we haven't been able to previously imagine. And that's actually a really important input that we bring to the table. It's almost like an input to the strategy function. And then the third vector, this is where our business groups say, hey, I'm the space business group and I want to, be able to make this thing happen with new space tech companies. Can you help me make that thing happen? Can you help me in my business, one business group, make things happen for my customer? It may not be relevant in those other business groups. And that's where we think differently than this enterprise perspective. And we go deep rather than broad. And we go then scout or be informed by outside in and inside out what we should go do with that one business group. So those are kind of the three vectors.
Yeah, I love the kind of diversity to how you all are collaborating and working with different partners. The kind of like that first horizon that you were discussing, in terms of some sample timelines here on from introduction with the company to getting the solution kind of packaged and rolled out. Do you have some sample timelines on what a founder might expect when partnering?
Let me give a few real examples because it really does vary.
Yeah.
We met Orca Security probably about 3 years ago, invested about 2.5 years ago. It took some time to help them, right? This was in the thesis to collaborate for Orca Security to be able to transact with the US government. There were some things they needed to accomplish in their technical baseline. There was some collaborative business development we needed to achieve together. And, the first customer contract wasn't signed until, about 1.5 years in to that relationship. And that was knowing full well that, Orca, they are a cloud native application protection platform, CNAP. That's been in the news recently because of the dalliance between Wiz and Google. This is a capability that clearly is needed by a lot. Being able to integrate that capability into a government environment is a little hard because of the nature of government clouds and multi-cloud echelons and multiple incident levels. And there are a lot of complexities in that. So it took a little bit of time. And that was a known set of knowns and unknowns when we started with them, right? They're on the precipice of FedRAMP. That'll open up civilian agencies for them. That was a known thing for us, that we're going to be NatSec focused to begin with, on-prem, not SaaS, and then we'll go to this other sales motion a little bit later when all of these other things we're working on with them happen. So that's one example. I compare that to, Morpheus, the second investment we made. That investment happened because we were in real time working on partnership opportunities, and the investment opportunity emerged as the partnership opportunity was emerging. And so those two things kind of happened together. And the first sales happened like almost the same day. Zage was a little bit different. And it's, Zage, I think, is like maybe the classic example of what we'd ideally want to do. Because we met Zage when they were pretty early. And we were talking to them about business collaboration, and they were doing a fundraise, and they said, hey, do you want to invest? And we were like, it's a little early, but let's keep the partnership conversation going. And we were able to have the first business opportunity emerge during those partnering days. And that led the CEO and chairman of the board to kind of say, hey, we're going to do another fundraise soon, some time later. Would you like to participate? And then it was an obvious yes for us and them. And so, right, partner first, investment happens, right? Partner first, commercial opportunity, sales, revenue generating. Venture invest, we made the next sale the day after the wire transaction closed.
Wow.
And so it's been kind of Janie bar the door with them for this capability from Zage. They're an IoT security company. We're actually using them in secure networks environments, kind of edge where the computer and mission network kind of operates as if it were edge compute. A lot of the zero trust software stack we have today doesn't work. Zage allows us to offer a zero trust environment for a secure network that's got nodes coming in and off, on and off, in and out, periodically doing different things. And they had that on their go-to-market roadmap like 3 years into the future.
Okay.
We were backing that up to today when we did it some months ago. And it's really opened up a whole new sales channel for them because we've been able to find customer needs where the tech's going to work. And our technical experts can fit that to the mission. So going from IT protection, think colonial pipeline hack, to now, or OT protection, I should say, to
Okay.
IT protection. That's something they didn't think they were going to get to do yet. And that became a now business opportunity, a growth opportunity for them that fit real mission needs for our customers. And our smart people are the ones who integrated that Dairy Queen Blizzard. This is that Reese's Peanut Butter Cup story from earlier.
Mm-hmm. It's
out operating in the field today. So we've gone from thinking across a year or two's time frame to, being in real time to actually having business being done before we venture invest.
Right.
It really just depends on the circumstance.
And is the most common use case that these companies are really 100% commercial, or is there a little bit of a mix, or when you all first kind of connect, or is it maybe they have some work that they're doing in this civilian agency, but they would love to tap into defense or something?
So there's a few different archetypes here, right? There's the bespoke for NatSec tech archetype, where we're having conversations with folks all the time that kind of fit that MO, where what they're building is NatSec. Could they be dual use in the future? Maybe not. In those kind of cases, if I see a company and they're all SBIR revenue, that revenue might as well be zero, even if the tens or hundred millions of dollars. It's really, doesn't look like ARR, doesn't look repeatable yet. So that's probably too early. If they've got going concern government revenue in that bespoke for NatSec tech kind of space, that matters as an investor. If you're a B2B company, you're dual use tech, you look at a company's TAM and it's 10 or 20 or 30% government and it's 90 or 80 or 70% B2B, then we're really looking for it beginning to light off with real market penetration in that B2B context. They may have never done $1 of business with the United States government. They may not be able to spell FAR. Right? They may have no experience. As long as they've got the leadership team and board commitment to want to address government, we are more than happy to be their partner in that world and take them from zero to something. If they've got this base of B2B dual use success that's going on. So two different contexts, two wildly different scenarios. I would say that last extreme example of like zero experience in government yet is probably the exception. It's more likely in our experience to see a company where, they've experienced some of the beltway traffic like enthusiasm that we described earlier in their own attempts to sell to government. And they're realizing that there is a path to revenue that does not include direct prime contracts with the government, which is not well understood, mind you.
Right.
I want to talk about that in a second because I think it's a great discussion point for us to get into if we could, Tim.
Yeah.
But they then see that through a company like SAIC that has access to hundreds of contracts and thousands of task orders and many different new competitions every year. So they can grow with us on contract. They can grow with us through bids and proposals. And they think they can grow with us with a little bit of government experience. So they kind of know what they're getting into. That's the perfect environment to be in.
Yeah, I think that's a good point to kind of outline, because a lot of these companies aren't always going to be so savvy in understanding the whole the way that the government works with private businesses here. It's the government contracting ecosystem, the primes, the subs. What are these vehicles? How do I get access to them? So kind of serving as this mentor and coaching them along of like, yeah, you don't have to just come in here and try to prime something, right? Like we can help with a lot of all the heavy lifting. Let's expand on that. So if you wanted to kind of pull on that thread a little bit and just kind of paint that picture, for the next wave of companies that might
Mhm.
be eyeballing SAIC after listening to this and say, what else can I expect?
Yeah. So I guess the first point I'd like to make is not all primes are the same. I think in a lot of conversations, there's this big lumpy bunch of government contractors called primes. And there are different kinds of primes, right? There are the platform primes, the Boeings, the Northrops, the Raytheons, the Lockheeds, and the like, um, where they're building very expensive government systems. There are startups that exist, right? Think about Anduril, that are aiming to compete at that prime level. There's a whole other definition of prime contractors where SIs like SAIC fit in, where we are the prime contractor. We are the ones who win a 50 or $100 million or $500 million or $1 billion, whatever the value is of the contract with the government. And then underneath that, just like those platform primes where they've got, if you're building an airplane, you got the engine, you got the avionics, you got the ailerons, you got the different composite metal parts, right? There's all of these suppliers contributing those things to the platform. Well, on an IT transformation or a digital engineering transformation, we oftentimes have a very similar approach. It's not just people doing things. Don't get me wrong. That is a big part of SAIC's business, and people enabled by technology is our strategy. And so those technologies can be NatSec bespoke. They can be dual use. And so being a subcontractor to SAIC provides access to all of that addressable market that goes to subcontractors. And this is something that the DoD can't publicize like it does in its budget line items. When we look at even Silicon Valley defense groups, NatSec 100, right? The best data they have access to is prime contracting data. They don't get to see Lockheed and Boeing's engine supplier sales or composite consumption sales, or that, so they don't get to see the equivalent from us either. It's unseeable in the budget docs because it's all being transacted through these other prime contracts. I would argue that selling for digital engineering and IT transformation to the federal government is B2B by different contracting rules. There are dozens, if not hundreds, of contracts bid every year. These are the big ones, right? And then at the smaller contracting level, there are thousands. These are all opportunities for startups, but it's kind of hard to see. So the one benefit that as a startup you can get by collaborating with a prime like SAIC, where we're not in it for the IP, we're not a product company, we're not a platform prime. We're selling things sometimes, but the things we're making are outcomes typically. They're not things. We're not writing billions of lines of software code. We're integrating lots of people's software code to create a cloud environment. And so it's a different way of thinking about accessing government contracts to be a subcontractor. And basically, what we're trying to do is make that easier for customers to pull in. That's our commercial operating business, and make it easier for startups to access. And that's our partnerships and ventures infrastructure.
Yeah, it's a fascinating way to kind of view it because I think a lot of folks look at an Andril and they think like that's kind of like the golden egg, right? If we can, it doesn't need to be like that level, right? There's so much opportunity to come in and just sub and just get that access and just kind of get that past performance. I think that's a big one that we always hear about is like, you need to have a little bit of credibility before you go after that next contract. And, you know, you don't always get that opportunity unless you have a partner like an SAIC to prime with. So I think it's really creative. And if I'm out here building some sort of a technology and trying to do business with the government, I mean, I think that this is truly a kind of big brother, little brother, mentor, protege kind of example where you can walk that line with them, show them the ropes, and create that opportunity with them, while also just providing really interesting outcomes for customers. I love this idea. I love this concept. It's something I'm starting to see a little bit more. It kind of be a model taken on by some of the other primes as well. What does the future look like for you and your team? If we're at a point right now where you've got three companies that are just kind of fully working with you, operating, delivering solutions. What does that look like in a year, 3 years, 5 years from now?
Yeah. So for us, it's really not a capital allocation argument. It's really about how many of these kinds of relationships can we develop, manage, and maintain through our partnerships based go to market model at a time? How many new relationships with novel venture backed startups can we kind of drive through the go to market system? We think that's three or four or five more in the fiscal year. And then, that'll teach us some more lessons and we'll figure out whether that's three or four or five more next fiscal year, or it's more than that, or it's less than that. But we think it's kind of in those magnitudes because, we've built this with an enterprise approach where we can kind of do inside sales from the innovation factory teams and their offerings into our different business groups and then get onto contracts that way. So our business groups own the customer relationships. And the demand for this integration, now that we've kind of publicized the strategy for SAIC around our national imperatives, these differentiators focused on growth vectors that are kind of different market opportunities across our business groups, we've seen like a 10x increase in the demand on our innovation factory teams.
Wow.
That's not all tech, right? But it really goes to show the power that this has within SAIC. That demand signal has other technology ingredients in it that our people, that our customers are looking for. That's what's going to drive the rate of our investments. Clearly, we're going to have to find great tech from amazing companies that are positioned to grow at phenomenal rates, because that's the art and science of venture capital investing. And then we add this strategic lens on it. We kind of got to thread a needle here. The investment thesis, the rationale to write a check here is a little different. I would argue it's a higher bar. And so that kind of keeps the rate of writing checks, managed to be something that's feasible, which therefore makes it executable for us.
Yeah, and it also kind of allows you to just go a little bit deeper with those companies versus just trying to take on what they say in venture, like, plant as many seeds as you can and see what grows, like, versus really being diligent and the technologies and the companies that you're selecting, and then going deep with them, right, and really spending that time to mature them, and looking at that quality versus just how many companies can we work with, right? So I love that part of the thesis.
There are market cases out there, Tim, where we know because of the feedback we get from government that we're going to need to be an integrator and be best of breed across a fleet of different potential providers of that technology, because it isn't universal enough that we can just go bet on one for a capability. We got to be ready in this government agency over here to use this tech from this company, and this other government agency, same need, same kind of integration, but I need to use the same tech from a different company.
Yeah.
And that's not a great opportunity for us to venture invest.
Yeah.
It might not even be a great opportunity to strategic partner. We need to be honest with those providers that you fit here, you fit there. The relationship, therefore, needs to not be this venture one. It's a different one.
Yeah.
And again, we've built an operating system to account for that.
Right.
It rate limits the deal flow.
Yeah. So as somebody that runs a recruiting business, and a lot of our listeners are always kind of tuned into opportunities, career growth opportunities, coming from commercial, government, a little bit of everything. You did kind of reference the participation on supporting on like the inside sales side of things. Do you all ever get your hands involved when it comes to helping with staffing or recruiting for some of those companies?
So we're super careful with what we say we're going to do and do with our startups to do what we're good at.
Yeah.
We've got in-house recruiting teams that recruit for technical talent for our people. that's not really something we've considered offering to startups because our value proposition to them is go to market.
Right.
And so, yeah, there are corporate venture capital teams out there, and we know some of them pretty well that have like, we'll help you with your back office accounting and finance. You can have access to our recruiters. We're trying to stay focused on our value proposition and do
Yeah.
the things that we say we're going to do with them well. Of course, if we're sitting at the leadership table with that startup because we're taking a board observer seat, not a board seat, because that's part of our MO, and they've got a talent challenge and they're seeking counsel from advice on access to things relating to human capital, will contribute when asked.
Yeah.
But it's not going to be the kind of thing we're going to make part of the full meal deal, the packaged offering that goes out to every startup, like our go-to-market collaboration, because that's core to what we're doing.
Sure.
It's really gonna, it's an opportunity for folks like you to really lean in and support these startups where your expertise can be valuable to them. From our perspective, what's good for the startup is great for SAIC, kind of in that order.
Sure.
And if they need support in talent management, recruiting, the downsides of those things, on maybe moving from one kind of talent base to another, that involves maybe retrenchments, or maybe it's growing a sales team, there's other people that are going to be better positioned than us to advise
Sure.
on.
Yeah, and I think that's smart. You kind of stay in your lane on where you're most impactful, where you're going to add the most value. If there's something that pops up where you can lend a hand, it's
Yeah.
almost like an as needed basis, but it's not something that you set as the expectations going into a partnership. I think that's really smart.
Yeah, there's one investment we're looking at right now, and our enterprise capabilities in corporate real estate and enterprise security, like chief risk officer, chief security officer type of things, are absolutely essential to that startup, right?
Yeah.
So that's part of the relationship that we're developing there, but it's unique to that circumstance.
Yeah, that's great. So I do want to make sure we save some time for our final segment as we're coming up on the hour. But prior to that, my last question for you, well, actually I had two questions real quick. What's the size of your kind of like team in this kind of, the venture side?
So the chief innovation officer team, big round numbers, about 650 people. We leverage the entire enterprise as the arms and legs of our ventures team. So we don't have the full-time people on staff who are responsible for tech diligence or business diligence elements, right? We don't have the full-time folks who run our ventures platform, because our venture platform is that entire go-to-market ecosystem we've built. So the full-time folks on our ventures team are 3 folks right now.
Okay.
Myself, we've got a principal on the East Coast, a principal on the West Coast, Chris George, and Katie Swanson. And really it's the dozens of other people in partnerships, products, and ventures, and hundreds of other people in the innovation factories and the CTO teams that have the arms and legs down into our business groups that make us successful. Without that operating system, we're just a 3-person team writing checks.
Right.
And so it really is about that. And then, the 20 some odd thousand smart hands we've got at the company on programs every day, bringing back these needs, implementing these technologies that really help it work. So that operating system analogy, it's becoming more and more as we do more of this, a little bit more of a machine. We kind of we're getting to where we can just turn the crank. We've got infrastructure that supports us, our own IT infrastructure. We've got processes and procedures and tools, our own version of TTPs to go to war. And it's really starting to move. So we're excited.
Yeah, it's a great little like flywheel visual. What a company can expect when they fall into your roles, kind of open arms as a partner. All right, great. And then this last question, where do you kind of stand with the future outlook on, let's say, the defense tech ecosystem at large? Or do you feel optimistic on positive change and like we're talking about moving quicker and kind of breaking that narrative that working with the government is hard, slow, and impossible at times?
I really do, right? We deal with a lot of investors. We work with a lot of startups. We talk to a lot of startups that are dual use. I hear the same things about banks, healthcare, energy, right? Other highly regulated industries. These are not easy markets to compete in. Government is just a different set of guidelines and rules and processes and procedures, hard to compete in.
A lot more
So
acronyms.
I think they're just different acronyms.
Yeah.
We're doing talking to some companies that have some business in banking, and
And
man, I'm in Google every minute of every
kind of slew of them.
conversation. So they're just new.
Yeah.
And so I'm super optimistic. There are a lot of froth things maybe going on in that SEC investing right now. It's one of the quote hotter segments from a dollar value perspective
Sure.
in this high interest rate, compressed and more intense period of investing in VCs. So, you've got these big macroeconomic changes in VC markets combined with a heightened awareness of national security priorities. I'm not surprised that there's more investment activity going on. But again, some of it a little frothy. We try to avoid that as best we can because we know a thing or three about being in NatSec.
Sure.
But we're not just in NatSec. We're also in a host of different civilian agencies, some of which, like DHS, FBI, right, they are national security related. There are national security related parts of the Department of Treasury. There are not that are much more like banking, fintech, et cetera.
Right.
There's all of the health focused agencies, the VA, HHS, et cetera. And then you've got all of the other civilian agencies, Department of Interior,
Energy is doing a ton.
Energy, right? And so these are all customers of SAIC. We've got experts in every single one of those businesses and markets in IT and digital engineering. So there's a lot of opportunity for startups across all of that. 80/20, it's dual use versus bespoke for NatSec tech from our perspective, right? Like we talked about, there are great opportunities for future platform primes. There are great opportunities for subcontract.
Yeah.
And the one thing we're recognizing from the government customer perspective is that the FAR says full and open commercial first. So do that. And customers are getting more comfortable with that, and trading in these commercial technologies is part of that. And not all of it comes from, the big tech companies you read about in the Wall Street Journal every day. Sometimes you got to get on PitchBook or Crunchbase or go to a pitch festival or whatever to go find them. And that's what we're doing to try to help our customers, along with looking at what DIU and AFWorks and the team at DHS and the IRS that are trading in these earlier stage technologies and putting those pilots to work, like you talked about earlier, Tim, and trying to find the best of that have gotten a couple of reps at the government contracting gym and then bring them to scale.
Yeah.
And so we're super excited about the potential. And we could talk about the technology domains for hours because there's so many of them.
We'll save that for a part two.
Yeah. I'd have to micro machines the conversation because when you get down in it on the specific, there are thousands.
Yeah.
But if you're digital engineering or digital transformation, cloud, cyber, AI, data, love to talk to you.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I think that's a great closing point. And, I can tell you, I'm much more optimistic, after this conversation. I think it's just great to see the different outlets available to founders that are looking for resources, looking for, a channel, some sort of an area to integrate, to add value, to impact such a large organization like the U.S. government, right? So I hope that this is one of those episodes that just brings one more idea to light, or one more opportunity through your all's gate. So thanks for the spending the time and spreading the conversation and building that awareness. I do want to close with the 5-second scramble. So this is going to be a quick little rapid fire Q&A. Some business, some personal. You ready to roll?
Let's go do it.
All right. So what is your favorite part about the culture at SAIC?
My favorite part is that we are super collaborative. I'm a starter kind of personality. I like being on the front end of things and building things and seeing other people lean into an idea, bring up a new idea, people jump on that and make it happen. It's my favorite part of the job.
What would you say, what kind of founders kind of thrive when coming through the SAIC Ventures portfolio?
Passion for mission. If you've got a passion for creating mission outcomes with your tech and your product, we're the place for you.
What would you say are the top areas of, we'll keep it defense tech, that you're most excited for in the next 5 years?
So I'm actually most excited for some boring stuff that isn't NatSec. I'll
Okay.
get to the NatSec stuff in a second. Um, Civilian agencies have not been known as the paragon of digital transformation. And it's because I think they just haven't been able to be exposed to the great things that are going on in analogous industries in dual use, like NatSec started doing 15, 20 years ago.
Mm-hmm.
And so I'm really excited about the automation, AI enablement, business process optimization, cloud enabled solutions for mission opportunities that we can bring into civilian agencies that maybe just haven't had the exposure to those technologies relative to NatSec tech. And on the NatSec side, the thing I'm most excited by are the hardest mission problems, right? What can we do to be ready for the worst possible scenarios in Indo-PACOM? How do we protect and defend the nation from emergent cyber and other digital risks and uncertainties? How do we leverage AI in the right mindful and ethical ways in that set context? Those are, these are at the edge of thinking. They are the hardest of hard problems. And DARPA doesn't get to play with all of them, and they get to play with some of them, and we're working with them on those sometimes. It's just really, really interesting to be able to focus on some of these really hard problems and then see how that technical solution can get reapplied again and again and again, maybe even in very different contexts. And when we can make something work out at the mission edge in a NatSec context and bring it to a civilian agency too, those things blow my mind and they're super cool.
Yeah, I love it. What resources or sources do you kind of tap into to stay current on trends that are happening in the overarching, deep tech, defense tech, civ tech kind of environments?
People. The venture is a people business. Yeah, of course. I've got subscription services that we buy, and there are a host of blogs and podcasts, and you can get overwhelmed with data. AI tools to integrate and synthesize it for you, to do market studies. I mean, the list goes on and on. At the end of the day, this is a people business. It's about relationships with other investors and founders.
Yeah.
To learn those things.
Yeah, I think I just got about 20 emails in the last 10 seconds about some sort of a news feed of what's happening. It's almost information overload sometimes. You really have to mute a lot of these channels and have a couple of trusted sources that you connect with. All right, what's a charity or corporate philanthropy that's near and dear to you?
Yeah, so for me, I am a huge baseball fan. And so, given time to youth baseball has been a huge part of my life. Even before my son started playing, I've been a coach, I've been a contributor. That's kind of probably the thing that's closest to me right now. Youth sports is something that, a lot of people can't afford. It's not inexpensive, even, for bat and ball sports like baseball. And so, that being able to help folks be able to access those enablers to kind of learning life skills and people skills, and maybe you can excel as an athlete too, but most people don't make it to the pros. You get a whole lot more out of it in other dimensions of your life. That's kind of an important one for me.
I love that. Yeah. Yeah. The access to getting involved with sports and having that kind of team camaraderie is so vital to the youth. So really support that as well. What's your favorite app on your phone?
My favorite app right now, and it has been for a long time, is a newsfeed aggregator called Paliber. And it just takes, you can kind of set up your own channels, and bring in this kind of multi-feed, multi-source data aggregation and click on what you want, read it. So
Cool.
I use that for news and blogs and those kinds of things.
What's it called again? How do you spell it?
Paliber. It's an old school RSS feeds. It's PLABRE.
Oh,
Um,
Power. Okay.
and it's an old school RSS feed tool that's kind of just grown a bunch of legs. Um, and it's just I use it as my news and blog and RSS integrator.
Cool. Yeah, I'll have to check that out. If you could have dinner with any tech icon, current or past, who would it be with and why?
So for me, I would love to spend some time with Alexander Graham Bell, and I'm going way in the way back machine, um, because he was an integrator that had to overcome technology roadblocks, but not so arguably, he had to overcome business model issues that were even more intractable than figuring out how to move voice over copper. And I don't think he gets enough credit for the business he built in addition to the technology he created. Um, Now, it turned into a regulated monopoly and all that other stuff that, has happened in other industries since those times too. I'd love to learn about the business side of Alexander Graham Bell. I'm a business model kind of guy. I'm a growth junkie, and I think he'd be a great historical figure to kind of to learn from in this day and age of different networks and modes of communication.
Yeah. Yeah. Not just an inventor, but a great teacher, you know? So two more and we're gonna wrap it. So what is the worst fashion trend that you've ever followed?
Oh gosh. So I would have to say in middle school, everybody probably remembers Andre Agassi, the tennis player.
Oh yeah.
And so I went after the frosted tips, mullet-ish haircut and you can talk about the time frame here, right? This is late 80s, early 90s. There are some pretty amazing, I'm shaking my head from side to side, not up and down, photos of me from back then.
Yeah. We'll get those as the headshot for the
Oh
for the
yeah.
podcast.
Yeah. And I'm going to need like my Dayglow wristbands
Yeah.
with the Adidas, with the puffy print t-shirt on,
Right. Right. Yeah.
really put
Yeah.
it in
Nice
style.
starter jacket. Yeah. Anybody that isn't familiar with frosted tips on this podcast, then yeah, you're clearly not in the same era as many of the guests that we have on. It's a classic era. So I don't ever want us to have regrets about the frosted tip era.
I don't know if I could ever refer to that as classic, but wow, I'm going to have to figure out a way to work that into the talk track.
All right, last one. What was your dream job as a kid?
Yeah, that's easy. Being a catcher for the New York Yankees.
Oh,
And then as I got older, I had this dream of being a bullpen catcher for the New York Yankees. I was like, don't have to be out there every day, get to catch all these amazing pitchers for like a few minutes at a time. Then I found out what it paid. Um, but yeah, being a catcher in the starting nine for the New York Yankees was a dream for a very, very long time.
did you play? Did you play a
I
bit as a
did.
kid?
Yeah. Played all the way up into college a little bit.
Nice.
So yeah.
Very cool. Yeah, that's an epic dream job as a kid. Um, all right, well that is a wrap, Mike. Thank you so much for spending time with us, and we're always excited for the future founders and startups that are tuning in or partnering with you all to drive this kind of innovation to really modernize our government. So we're rooting for you all. Excited to see how your program, the venture side of SAIC evolves over the years. And thank you for hanging with us on the pod.
Yeah, definitely. Thank you for the opportunity, Tim. And anybody out there in your community got questions, want to connect, reach out. LinkedIn's a great way to do it. So I guess I'll plug that app on my phone too.
There you go.
And we'll grow this thing together with all of your support. So thanks for being a part of the ecosystem.
Absolutely. And we will be sharing this on LinkedIn. And sounds like you and I have to go grab a Blizzard. I'm going Reese's Peanut Butter Cup. What are you going with?
Yeah, so I'm going to have to ask my wife for which flavor I should go with.
Okay.
And growing up in Western Nebraska with Grandma Nancy, her mom, our son's grandmother, you had a great day, you had a terrible day. It was go celebrate, or let me help you think through it at Dairy Queen with a Blizzard.
Yeah.
So I'll leave the choosing of the Dairy Queen treat to Jen because she is a connoisseur.
As long as it's served upside down, right?
You got to show it upside down. That proves how thick it is. It's
Yeah.
that's part of the showmanship of the blizzard.
It's iconic. We'll have much more to wrap on a part 2 on desserts and such. But again, thanks for joining us, Mike. This was a blast.
Thanks, Tim.